Hi, I'm Bill Earle, fine art photographer and image maker. Today I want to share with you a fairly simple technique to make a floating shadow. So let's get started. Okay, we're going to start with this image of a leaf that I made using a light sculpting technique. So right now the image doesn't really appear to be floating. So what we want to do is we want to put a floating shadow under it. What we mean by a floating shadow is a shadow that's not connected to the object itself. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is duplicate the background layer, and we can do that with Command J on a Mac or Control J on a PC. Then what we're going to do is we're going to make a fairly loose selection, just mirroring the shape of the leaf. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our lasso tool, and what I'm going to do is just sort of outline, and I want to leave extra space around the shape of the leaf, and you'll see why when we start to work on the shadow. So I'm just going to do a selection like that. Then I'm going to right click it and select and mask, and I'm going to take the defaults here for the mask. We're going to go over here, we're going to click the mask, and now we have a mask. As you can see, it's just that shape we just outlined. The next step is to add a fill layer. In this case, we're going to add a solid color, which is going to be black, which for RGB is 000. And as you can see, the image is blacked out by that fill layer. What we're going to do then is apply this mask to the fill layer. So with the Option key on the Mac or the Alt key on the PC, we hold that down, drag that mask up, we're going to say yes. Now we have our mask revealing our dark fill layer. So the first thing we're going to do is select our Move tool up here, and we're going to drag that out. Now it's a lot bigger than what we need, but that's okay for now. So basically we just drug it down a bit. So the next step is we want to soften the edges around that shadow. So with the mask of our fill layer highlighted, we select our brush tool, and we're going to get a reasonably large or mid-sized brush, about so big, and we're going to select black over here so we can block some of this mask. And what I'm going to do is I'm at 50% opacity. I'm going to push it all the way up in the interest of time. So using the edge of that soft brush, I'm just going to, as you can see, sort of soften the edges of the shadow as I go around. And it's obviously making it a bit smaller as we do this, which is why we made it large to begin with, because we knew we were going to reduce it down a bit. And some of this is seasoned to taste. You can sort of shape it by doing this to get it to something that makes sense for your image. As you can see, we have a very dark shadow that mirrors the shape of the leaf with soft edges. So what we're going to do is highlight the fill layer, not the mask, the fill layer. We're going to back off the opacity a bit. And again, this is sort of seasoned to taste based on what works. And that gives us, I'm going to leave it a little dark so it's nice and visible. Make that image just a little smaller. So that's interesting. However, the shadow, as you can see, overlaps the leaf a bit, so it's not quite realistic yet. If we drag it down, we're going to start to drag it out of the frame. So what we're going to do is we're going to transform it a little bit. Basically, we're going to squish it a little bit. So Command T on a Mac, Control T on a PC. So we're just going to squish it a little bit, kind of like this. And we're going to take that, and that's much better. So then we're going to take our Move tool, and we're going to move it around a little bit to get it sort of, in this case, I'm just going to drop it down a little bit. So that's looking pretty good. I'm going to go back to the mask, take off a little bit more opacity, and I'm going to go back to my brush tool and work these edges just a little more. I'm going to sort of point that one a little bit down here. I'm going to bring that in closer mirror the shape of the leaf. This little curve right here, I want to get a little more of that. So there we go. That's actually looking pretty good. All right, I think we're almost there. What I want to do is just reduce the opacity a little bit more. It tends to be a little more realistic. Again, I keep saying it, it's seasoned to taste. So that's pretty good. I like that. And if you were to turn this layer on and off, turn it off, put it back on again, you can see, and it tends to lift the leaf off of the surface and give it more of a three-dimensional floating appearance. To wrap this up, I just wanted to share with you the actual finished product and the actual image and the final version of the shadow, which is what you're seeing on the screen.